We can't travel a lot, but we try to travel more. We try to see a few more people in Lafleur, try to allow a few more visits when we can, because we think that that's the one thing we were missing always. There's no wine without people,
Yep.
not on the producing side and not on the existing.
Yep.
You have to exist. A wine exists
Yep.
if people are drinking it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And emphasize on the word drinking,
Yes.
not buying,
Yes.
drinking.
Totally. That's
We
what it's
want
all
people to
about.
drink our wines. That's what
Absolutely.
it's made for.
But I think that, okay, so that's what's uncorking next at Lafleur, and that makes total sense. There may be a handful of wines in the world where just saying the name changes the room. Lafleur is one of them. And the man helping make Lafleur grew up in Israel with zero connection to wine, sent a handwritten letter to the estate with no website, no email, and no public profile, and then waited 5 months for the reply. That letter changed everything. Omri Ram is the winemaker at Lafleur, and our conversation covers old vines, independence, climate, and what it means to be the steward of something irreplaceable. This is Uncorking What's Next. I'm Jeff Zachariah. Stay with me. Today's episode is brought to you by La Tête d'Or, the French-American steakhouse from legendary chef Daniel Boulud in Manhattan's Flatiron District, serving one of the best lunches in New York. I had the pleasure of working with Chef Boulud over the years, hosting wine auctions together at Restaurant Daniel and dining at many of his amazing restaurants. I've never been disappointed. So I was very excited to see what he's created at La Tête d'Or. It brings together the spirit of classic American steakhouse with refined French flair. Great steaks, incredible seafood, and a fantastic wine list. If you're in New York and looking for a memorable lunch, La Tête d'Or is absolutely worth a visit. It gets my highest recommendation. Today I'm here with Omri Ram of Lafleur. And I've been visiting Lafleur for 20 years, and I think most of that time has been with you. But I was thinking as I was preparing this podcast, I've been to Bordeaux for most of 40 years, and for the first 20 years, I visited all the top chateaus except Lafleur, which is quite interesting. Omri, do you know Dominique Renard, who recently passed away? Very sad.
Definitely.
But I was here in New York with him 20 years ago. I said, Dominique, I've never been to Lafleur. And he said, Jeff, neither have I. And I said, Dominique, you live in Saint-Emilion, 5 minutes from there. You've spent your whole life there. And he had never been to Lafleur. So we went to Lafleur for the first time together about 20 years ago. It was a really memorable experience. In all my visits to Lafleur, I've always found you to be articulate and thoughtful with a deep technical understanding of Lafleur, but with a philosophical approach to wine and a philosophical clarity about Lafleur, something I really appreciate. You really, at Lafleur, refuse to chase styles. So I just want to thank you for coming on the show. It's always been such a pleasure to visit you for so many times at Lafleur.
Thank you for hosting me, Jeff. Very gracious. Thank you for the kind words. I'm not sure I agree with all of them, but maybe some of them. Always a pleasure to have you over during the years.
I think the listeners would love to hear a little about your history. When you were growing up, did you drink wine? Was wine served at your table?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Wine is still a relatively new thing for me. I grew up in Israel,
Yep.
so I'm not French.
Yep.
I grew up in Israel, nice middle-class suburban family with absolutely no whatsoever connection to wine. The only time we had wine was when we were doing the holidays, the Jewish holidays, and maybe having some kiddush, very, very bad kiddush wine, something very symbolic, never good. It was not something in the culture. I think there was very, very, not much of wine culture in Israel in those days.
Certainly. I used to
No.
visit. I visited a number of times. And that was not something I experienced either. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. But then you went from a sommelier in Tel Aviv and New Zealand to Pomerol and Lafleur. How did that happen?
Yeah, but that happened quite organically, to be honest. I moved quite quickly from knowing nothing about wine to tasting some cheap wine to paying my tuition still in Israel. I paid my tuition by working in bars and restaurants. And
okay.
I got connected to wine. And when I got connected in wine and seeing those, first generation of Psalms in Israel, and they got me hooked on it. And a lot of the first wines I've tasted, the great wines I've tasted, in the beginning were from Bordeaux. And Bordeaux immediately took a place in my heart and in my head as the base of great wine, not just of wine, of great wine.
Yeah.
And after I left Israel and I left my occupation as a som, I left the industry, the gastronomy industry, the restaurant scene, because I knew that I want to make wine. I
Wow.
want to change. I want to go to that side. I want to go to the vineyard, to the cellar. I moved to France to study winemaking. I did 1 year of winemaking viticulture studies in the south, in Montpellier. I did my second year in Spain, actually, in Madrid. When I was about to finish the second year, I said, I must get some Bordeaux experience. I thought, yeah, that's magic. Not just making now these cool, great wines, but having been making those wines for a few centuries already and still going at it and probably getting better because my views, Bordeaux wines are getting better and better. So I think that's what attracted me. I see you want to be a serious winemaker and a viticulturist because we gotta put that word in. So vineyard work.
Yep.
I think Bordeaux was a clear place that I must spend some time and put some hard work in.
And then you got an internship at Lafleur. Did you just apply for it? How did that happen? I mean,
Exactly that.
really?
I was still living in Madrid. I had in my head, I had maybe the top 15 producers in Bordeaux that interest me, that I knew their wines. Maybe I had some contact with them in the past, but very nothing serious, let's say. Basically, I took that list and I just sent my CV
Huh,
and my letter of
good for you.
motivation to 14 of those 15.
Right?
The 15th was Lafleur. Couldn't find, there was no website,
No.
couldn't
Yeah.
find an email anywhere.
Uh,
Uh, I managed to find the actual physical address of Lafleur. Then I sent a letter, and I got a reply 5 months after. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, after I already booked, my internship somewhere else in Bordeaux. But clearly
Yep.
things played it out that I said I need to go to Lafleur. I had only one time tasted Lafleur in my life at that
Mm,
point
yeah.
when I was a som, and it was the 2005 Lafleur, and I said, okay, I gotta go to that place.
You
I
knew.
gotta
You
I
knew
gotta
at that
give it a
point you
go.
had to try it.
Yeah.
To me, Lafleur is tiny in size but enormous in personality. How would you describe Lafleur in one or two sentences like that? If you
Tough. You
can.
you you you're making me work hard today,
Exactly.
huh?
Yeah, that's my job, right?
Lafleur, I think your description was great.
Mm.
Tiny place, personal, family. And at the same time, it's a universe. It's a wine that
Yeah.
is a universe.
Yep.
On the
Yeah.
palate,
Yeah.
it's a universe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
In the glass, it's a universe. It's not always the easiest wine to taste when you don't have a bit of experience with Lafleur.
Nope.
It can overwhelm you not with abundance, but with details and feelings and textures, etc. So I usually say that Lafleur, in a nutshell, is kind of perfect harmonious associations of totally contrasting
Huh.
elements.
Yeah.
We usually say here in house, we say elegant power or soft power. Lafleur is a powerful
Nice.
wine, but
Yep.
a lot of people, it takes them a lot of time to notice that there's actually a lot of power on the palate
Right.
because it's so elegant and it's
Yep.
so aerial and there's so much lift in it. So I think, yeah, these contradictions in harmony, I think this is Lafleur.
Yeah.
Lafleur was always a strong, perfect combination between a place and the people who were tending to
Yeah.
that
I
place.
think that's
Yeah.
correct. I think that's very well
Which was
spoken.
always the same family, by
Yeah.
the way,
Amazing. For how
since
long
the
now?
foundation.
Since the
Well,
foundation.
our family founded Lafleur in 1872.
Right.
To be honest, in the Bordeaux wine world, it's not that old, but it's not young.
It's a pretty
Um,
strong tradition, though.
it's a pretty strong tradition. Our family have been making wine in Grand Village,
Huh.
which is our sister property,
Yep.
more than 250 years
Wow.
before Lafleur. We're talking about
Wow.
1650 in Grand Village,
Oh.
meaning there was experience way
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And when the family acquired the parcel of Lafleur, which was already there, but there was never winemaking, there was no winery, there was
Mhm.
just grape growing in
Mhm.
that parcel, and our family took over. And at that point, you have that moment of combination. The terroir was there, the vines were there, but now the people came, our family, and decided, okay, we gotta make wine exclusively from this vineyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such
Yeah.
passion. You talk about Grand Village. That's where you're doing the grape preservation, right? And all the varieties and the Boucher
Yeah.
along those lines.
Definitely.
And the Boucher is a Cabernet Franc, but you're also working there with Merlot. Do I have that? Do I understand that
Yes.
correctly?
Yes. So Lafleur is almost perfect wedding or marriage of Cabernet Franc and Merlot. We don't really call it Cabernet Franc because we have very old, unique and rare
Yeah.
genetic of Cabernet Franc that is pre-clonal, meaning nobody can really just go and buy it somewhere. We have it because our family preserved it and propagated it during the generations
Amazing.
in-house.
Right.
So we call that Boucher.
Right.
And we also have that for Merlot, but funny enough, historically, there was never a different name for the old genetics of Merlot and for the modern genetics of Merlot, so we just call it Merlot. But Lafleur in the end is a story of roughly a slight majority of Boucher.
Right.
53% of the vineyard is planted with Boucher, and the rest is Merlot.
And would you
Yeah.
say this is like the genetic DNA, the backbone of Lafleur, the uniqueness? Is this variety is what you have to offer there?
I think an important part of why Lafleur is so unique and singular comes from the old genetics, in plural, the old
Right.
genetics that we have, because we have many different variation of old Boucher genetics.
How many different variations do you have?
We don't even know, probably hundreds.
Wow.
We have roughly, I would say today, about almost 12,000 vines of Boucher in Lafleur, just in Lafleur,
Wow.
not talking about the other vineyards of the
Right.
family. And from them, I would estimate around 8,000 old vines of Boucher.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
The other younger vines are babies from the old vines. We
Right.
are propagating them in-house.
Yep.
But also for Merlot, we have some variety of old genetics of Merlot. And I think these old genetics definitely play a major part in that very singular and unique expression that you have with Lafleur on your nose, on the palate, the mouthfeel, the length, what happens after you drink. We don't have many questions to solve in the blending. We
Ah.
literally harvest the vineyard of Lafleur and it goes into two tanks, one of Merlot, one of Boucher. The last thing we have to do in January after harvest is just to blend the two varieties together.
Great.
So we're talking about, messing about with 0.02%
Yeah.
of that or of this, or yeah, that's our blending session. It's very fast, it's very easy, but we do everything blind to make sure that we're not, affected by any exterior
Yep. That's
influence.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I only taste Lafleur blind otherwise in bottle when somebody try to trick me
Right.
or
Right.
somebody doesn't know I'm from Lafleur and is serving Lafleur blind,
Yeah.
which happens.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's not always easy. It's
No.
not always
Yeah.
easy.
No.
No,
Well, blind tastings are always, as Michael Broadbent said to me years ago, the most successful way to do blind tastings is have a peek in the kitchen first.
true. I
Right.
do try to apply that every time I can, but sometimes there's no
No, of course,
access.
and it's
Yeah,
fun. As long as it's done in fun, I like doing it.
definitely,
But
definitely.
Bordeaux is a region that's so built on tradition and reputation, where you have the negociants and the courtiers, and everyone offers their wines within 2 months, the same 2 month window roughly. But to me, Lafleur has always felt slightly outside of the system, independent and marching to your own beat. When you think about that long arc of Lafleur's history, what does that independence mean today?
Oh, it's a huge element of our being
Yeah,
here,
I know.
So I must say, because I had a lot of discussions about this recently
I'm
with
sure.
people more than ever.
Yep.
Lafleur was always an outsider in Bordeaux, meaning if Bordeaux is this square, we are not miles away. We're just outside of the square. We are
Yep.
we are neighbors. We are
Of
there.
course.
We are connected. Our family, the Guinaudot family, are a Bordeaux family of the right bank, yeah. But this family has always played to a different tune, and I think you mentioned it in the beginning. Our family just never wanted to follow any new styles, any new fashions, and that holds today or 50 years ago or in the middle of the 19th century. So I think that's the main
Yep.
descriptor I would give of our status in the landscape of Bordeaux. We are outsiders. We do things the way we see fit, the way we manage to rationalize them into our viticulture, paysan farming world, because this is always the leading factor in every decision making. It's
Sure.
about farming. We are farmers before anything else, before
Yep.
making wine or tasting wine or talking about wine. We are farmers.
The decision to leave the AOC system did create a lot of headlines, but it really wasn't that radical. It was simply a continuation of what Lafleur is, their DNA, their independence.
The natural continuation of
Yeah.
something that we've been doing for more than 100 years,
Yep.
and just felt not just right but necessary.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we are still, we are making our wines, the same wines, and the same family making those wines from the same vineyards, same terroirs, same place.
Yep.
So nothing really changes except the definition, or the label will change a bit, but nothing else will change.
Yeah.
And we are in amazing relationship, I would say better than ever, with our neighbors in
Oh,
Pomerol.
good.
We're doing some research together with them, joint projects with our neighbors. So I
So
think we've
important.
never been in such good terms with our neighbors. And of course, in a neighborhood like Pomerol, which is a very luxurious
Yeah.
but very small, tight,
Yeah.
neat
Yep.
neighborhood, you gotta have good relationship with your neighbors. You can't work
Absolutely.
otherwise. Yeah.
Absolutely. When I think back to 2004, when I visited Bordeaux right after the incredibly hot 2003 vintage, people were shell shocked. A lot of vignerons
Yeah.
were really shell shocked, right? Um, what tools do you have now that you didn't have back then?
Yeah, in 2003, it's always a funny story in Lafleur. I think we made a very good Lafleur
Yep.
2003, but it's clearly an accidental vintage
Mm.
climatically, and it's the first cannery. It's the first
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
announcement,
Yeah. Yeah.
something, and
Canary
we
in the coal mine.
registered, and then
Yes. Yeah.
but we registered and forgot about it because it was a first, and we
Right.
thought it's a one-off.
Yep.
And then by 2010 and 9 and 10 and 11, it kind of came back as a reminder. Oh, we've seen something a bit similar to that. '03, very interesting, is the first year that the younger generation of the family, so Baptiste and Julie Guinaudot,
Mm.
they come back to join the family and to work with their parents, Jacques and Sylvie, in 2001. And by 2003, I think Baptiste and Julie feel that they got the hang of it, and they tell their parents, listen, guys, take a vacation, take a summer vacation. Jacques and Sylvie never took, until that day,
Ah,
a summer vacation.
right.
They were tending to the vines, and they were working alone in Grand Village and Lafleur. And Jacques and Sylvie went to Ireland, which is a great place probably to be in the summer of
Yeah.
'03.
Yeah.
Probably the best, one of the
Yep.
best in Europe. They go there, and after a few days during their
They
vacation,
get called
Baptiste
back,
called
right?
them.
Yeah.
Baptiste called them and said, "Listen, Dad, Mom, I think you gotta come back." And they say, "Why?" "Well, we don't have any leaves anymore. Most of the
Yeah.
leaves have fallen already, and we are mid-August."
How old were the children at that point?
Baptiste was 20 and Julie was 19.
What a courageous thing to do when you're in your mid-20s, to first tell your parents we're ready, but then be able to be self-introspective enough to say, hold on, we're not ready.
And I think in this family, you'll see communication, internal communication. Yeah,
Yeah.
is a huge thing. We talk with each other. Sometimes very late at night. Messages and
Yep,
phone
yep,
calls.
yep.
The group is better than just one person.
And that shows in the wine because if there was tensions, if the family was tensions and not aligned, that would present itself in the personality of the wine as well. But the
I think so.
harmony and the beauty of it just shows the love of everybody, your whole family that's making these wines,
Yes,
right?
I think you mentioned, or you asked how can I describe Lafleur, in a nutshell, and I tried and I failed, of course. But another way is to think about the word or the term balance,
Mm.
because I think for this family, for our family, balance was always at the center of everything that we do, and the wines, they must be balanced, but also to get that balance, we gotta have balance in our life, in our work relationships, and inside our teams. And if the balance was off, which happens unfortunately quite often in top family domains,
Any family
uh,
business, right?
yeah,
Even
any
in my
family
family
business, I
business,
agree.
we had challenges, right? It's
I agree
yep.
totally.
So you're in a lucky place there. That's really fantastic, and as I said, it does show in the wines. This episode is brought to you by the Wine Market Journal. If you buy, sell, or collect fine wine, you already know that information matters. I've been in the fine wine business for more than 40 years. The Wine Market Journal is my one source of truth. It tracks actual market prices, not opinions, not asking prices. Real auction transaction data from across the globe. Plus, it has great filtering capabilities so you can easily see the data that is relevant for you. I spent decades in the auction business, and I can tell you, understanding market value changes the game. If you're making decisions in fine wine, make informed ones. Visit winemarketjournal.com to learn more. Plus, uncorkers can get 10% off their first year of a standard, premium, or professional annual subscription. Just enter uncorking in the promo code field at checkout. When I think of business or anything where you're facing a new challenge, you want to have something that's really confident in your pocket that you know can really help you. And I'm wondering if your grape varieties is something that gives you confidence when you're coming into when we're faced with the global warming, as a way to really help Lafleur keep its quality and keep its place.
I think it gives us a part of the confidence we
Hmm.
have, but I don't think there's any one element that can
Okay.
really assure you
Yeah.
and assure your future. Because again, it's a family business. We've been making Lafleur and Grand Village for generations, and we want to keep it like that. So we gotta keep making great wines, and we gotta keep it in the family,
Yeah.
which are two separate but very connected challenges. The Boucher is great, the old genetics, because the old genetics evolved, grew up, if you want, genetically in Pomerol,
Right.
and they adapted
Yep.
to the terroirs of the Plateau of Pomerol, which are quite poor terroirs.
Hmm.
So these are genetics that we believe know how to deal very nicely with rough conditions, especially on the arid drought conditions, heat conditions, which is, I think, one of the major, if not the most important challenge we are handling now, but not the only challenge, as we saw in 24
Yes.
and as we've seen in the past, I would say, a month and a half now. uh, Extreme rain episodes
Huh.
and floodings is another challenge that we
Sure.
are already handling and will handle.
Right.
Um, that's why there's no one element. Boucher is great, and
Yep.
that's why we want to have different genetics of Boucher,
Right. Very
because
important.
those different genetics, some of them are really good handling heat, some are really good handling drought, but some of them are really good in handling very rainy, very when the soil is really drenched with water. And you want to have parcels, also new parcels that we're planting in Lafleur, in Perrières, in Grand Village, mixed with all of this, with diversity of Boucher and diversity of Merlot genetics. And that's how you get resilient in the vineyard.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's so important, that resilience that happens over time, the evolution as these grapes learn how to adapt. It's exactly along those lines. As global warming is going to make a lot of changes and you're going to have these big swings, could you see that one vintage could be you could make something that's radically different than previous vintages?
In theory, everything could happen.
Right.
Yeah. Everything could happen, and we don't know where it's going to go. We see first signs of the curve of how it evolves. And I hope we'll be able, we're doing
To
our best,
adapt and
and I think
manage.
everybody
Yep.
should do our best also to make sure it doesn't, get worse. One thing about our decision to leave the appellations last summer was very much related to the denial. I think there is still a lot of denial, maybe less and less, because I think more and more of the farmers and the winemakers and the bureaucrat, elements who are managing a lot of this, I think everybody can feel it on their own flesh
Yeah.
that climate is changing
Yeah.
strongly. So, but denial is important. We're important to get rid of,
Yes.
to open our eyes, even if it's difficult, because some of the conclusions from that are difficult, and some of the steps we must take might be difficult. We could have years where we won't be able to make Lafleur,
Wow. Yep.
or yeah,
Yeah.
it happened in the past, always by decision, meaning
Right.
1987. We
Ah.
we chose,
Right.
the family chose not to make Lafleur because it deemed that the conditions during the season and in harvest were so difficult that it couldn't find quality in the grapes that is sufficient to make Lafleur for him. He's very rigorous. The whole family quite rigorous.
Right.
91, we got hit by a serious frost in
Yeah.
Bordeaux,
I know.
and there is no Lafleur.
Hmm.
Again, by choice, because there was still some grapes.
Right.
You could force it and make Lafleur.
Yep.
But we decided early on that we only make a top Lafleur in the conditions of each and every specific year. If we don't believe that we get that level of Lafleur, we will not make it.
Yep.
So that's the 2 times by decision that there was no Lafleur made. You gotta understand the micro, meso, and macro shifts that are
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
And happening. The difference from before is that they're happening very fast now.
To me, the Ginaudot family is more than just Lafleur. You have other properties of Ponce de Lafleur, La Perrière, Champs-Libre, and Grand Village, all of which I love, right? And
Thank you.
I'm saying, I'm speaking honestly, but you're welcome. And I love opening some of the other wines, the Champs-Libre and the Grand Village, for people who don't know wine that well. It's a great introduction to wine. I'm very happy to open those wines. I know Ponce de Lafleur is no longer the second wine of Lafleur. How do you describe Ponce de Lafleur when people want to understand the difference?
Very, very easy. Actually, it's never been easier. Much easier than explaining a second wine, which you never know. Each vintage of the same second wine has different grapes coming from different places. A second wine does not have its own proper identity. We switched Le Pensée from a proper second wine, which it was between 87, its first vintage, in 1997, I would say. Yeah. And from around 1998, we started this movement where Le Pensée is not a second wine, is not a byproduct or side product of the first wine of Lafleur, but it's actually a very defined cru, meaning a defined zone inside the vineyard of Lafleur.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
It's the one zone inside the vineyard of Lafleur where the great Pomerol terroir dominates. And the great Pomerol terroir is Pomerol clay.
Right,
Yeah, that
right.
rusty, lots of iron oxide clay.
Oh, yeah.
And the
I
famous
can still
Pomerols,
feel it in my hands, that clay.
you feel it,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you feel it on the palate.
Yeah.
And the funny thing with Lafleur is not a Pomerol or not a typical Pomerol.
No.
Lafleur is mostly, our vineyard sits on massive formations of stones, not of clay. We have lots of different type of gravels, from big Châteauneuf-du-Pape looking like big pebbles, all the way to Médoc style smash small gravel. And when you drink today Château Lafleur, this is Lafleur from stones, from gravel. When you go to that little zone where Le Pensée is delimited, which is inside the vineyard of Lafleur, but it's the one part, it's the middle part of the vineyard, the lower part, where we suddenly have Pomerol clay. And that's the dominating terroir in that part. And other than that, Le Pensée has the same blend, the same old genetics of Boucher and old genetics of Merlot, the same viticulture, same winemaking, and the same people making it.
Yeah.
Even in the same cellar. So the real difference between, I consider both these wines, Lafleur and Le Pensée, as just two different versions of the same place of Lafleur.
Yep.
Château Lafleur is the stony version or the gravel version, and Le Pensée is the clay version. And that's the only real difference.
And there's much less Le Pensée made, I believe, right? The production is much smaller.
That smaller zone with clay is actually a little valley crossing the vineyard of Lafleur in the middle.
Yep.
And it represents, I would say, it's about 17%, if I'm calculating,
roughly. Yeah.
We're making about 3,000 bottles a year.
Yeah, amazing.
In average of Le Pensée, while Lafleur is a huge amount of 12,000 bottles.
Oh, yeah.
Not
huge.
cases, bottles.
Yeah. And La Perrière to me is really redefining the potential of Fronsac. It's really an exciting project that you're doing there.
We are super excited. I think it's the one that we're the most excited, the cru, the vineyard, the place we're most excited about these days.
Lafleur's already hitting these high peaks. I think, La Perrière still has great upward potential.
In-house, we say Le Perrière is the future. Yeah, of course, we're not going to stop making Lafleur or Le Pensée or any of the other wines.
Right.
But Perrière is magic, as something special that we haven't touched before. And I think it's a multi-layer thing for us. First, it's sentimental.
Nice.
Le Pensée or Lafleur, even especially Lafleur is a good example. We tend to Lafleur today. Other people tended to Lafleur before us, and other people will tend to Lafleur after us.
You're the current stewards of Lafleur.
Exactly. Lafleur was there before us. Somebody else, which in the case of Lafleur is our ancestor Henri Groulot, he said that block, that parcel is unique, and I gotta make wine. That parcel never made wine because those grapes from that parcel were sold to the wine merchants in
Yep,
Libourne
yep,
and were
yep.
mixed and blended
Yeah,
with so
which
many
is
other
very
grapes.
normal back in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back in the days. This ancestor of us, Monsieur Groulot, he decided that this parcel is extremely special. And he knew the area very well. And he said, I want to get that parcel and I want to build a little winery next to it and start making wines only from that parcel of Lafleur.
Amazing.
And
What a
that's
vision.
visionary. He
What a
created it.
vision he had. Yeah.
And today we are tending, we are the the actual interpreters of Lafleur.
Yep.
But some people preceded us and other people will take our place, hopefully still from our family.
Yep.
Le Perrier is a different story. Our generation created Le Perrier. We decided that place is special. And beyond that, we decided let's make a vineyard in there, or let's plant it. Let's plant it in a special way. So the story in a nutshell of Perrier is that, as I just said, following your question about Le Pensée, is that in Pomerol, in our little vineyard of Lafleur, we make two versions of Lafleur. Château Lafleur is the gravel version,
Right.
and Le Pensée is the clay version. But in our family, we really love also to drink limestone wines. Yeah, wines are coming from limestone, and we have our beautiful examples in Saint-Emilion, in the top of Saint-Emilion, on the plateau, but also from Burgundy and a bunch of other places. We love that effect of great, intense limestone terroir on the
Fantastic.
wine. And we said, okay, maybe we can make a third version of Lafleur on limestone. We have the gravel, we have the clay, we want to make a limestone version.
Love it.
How do we do that? Well, first, Pomerol is the one place on the right bank when there's absolutely no limestone. You can dig as deep as you want, you won't find any limestone. But as our family comes from Fronsac, from Grand Village, we know that there is good limestone to be had. We just had to look for it. And it actually took us 10 years to find this beautiful spot, a beautiful high plateau, one of the highest vineyards in Bordeaux today, and overlooking the Dordogne River. And when we found it after 10 years, we decided that we're going to copy-paste Lafleur. We're going to copy-paste the vineyard of Lafleur.
So interesting.
And we know how to do it because we've done that in our family internally. We've been, for generations, we've been propagating and repropagating the old genetics of Boucher and of Merlot to create new vines, to create baby vines that copy the old genetics of their parents. And we know how to do it. So we did it in mass, and we created a new vineyard, which is called Le Perrier, in the south part of Fronsac, in one of the highest locations in Bordeaux. That is a copy of Lafleur. It's planted 50% Boucher, 50% Merlot. And all of these are coming from cuttings. Yeah, it's an exact copy, and it's coming from the cuttings of the old vines of Boucher and Merlot and Lafleur.
Right. And then you have Champ Libre, which is, in my mind, a precision Sauvignon Blanc. Is that a fair description?
I would say we don't like to think in varieties.
Okay.
Meaning, for us, it seems for us that if you taste a wine blind and immediately you know the variety or the varieties, it's probably not a great wine. Something is a bit off.
Yep.
I think if it has enough complexity and deepness, you should hesitate for a second.
Yep. Yep. I agree with that.
Sometimes a great Bordeaux with a bit of age, I'm confused between are we in Bordeaux? Are we in Burgundy?
Yeah.
As
or
much
right
as
bank,
it could
left
be.
bank even. Yeah.
Yeah. And it happens to me with maybe great, southern France, a great Rhone wine. After some time, I can confuse it with Burgundy, or sometimes with even Bordeaux or with Piemonte.
Yep.
So I think great wines surpass their elements, meaning also the varieties.
Yep.
I think what we tried to do with Champ Libre was actually going against the variety, meaning we knew that we have great terroir for white wine in Grand Village, which is in Fronsac, north of Fronsac. There's a lot of great terroir for white wine on the right bank.
Right.
Still, most of it is planted with Merlot.
Yep.
Which was the fashion at some point and still persists. And I'm not saying Merlot is bad, but a lot of this terroir is not that great for Merlot, but could be amazing for white varieties.
Right.
Amazing clay sitting on quite massive limestone, but with clay that is abundant enough to actually favorize a great white wine. And we knew that. We already were making a white wine, which is Grand Village White at that point. But in Grand Village White, this is our older vineyard of Grand Village, and this is Bordeaux genetics
Yeah.
clones
Yep.
of Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. We said, let's try again, not to be Bordeaux while still
Hmm.
being Bordeaux,
Exactly.
which
This is
means
Lafleur.
we're not.
Yep.
Yeah,
This is your film. Yeah.
we don't want to plant on this great terroir Chardonnay
No.
or Chenin Blanc or Vermentino or Riesling. I'm sure we can make some quite cool
Yeah.
stuff with those varieties, but we wanted to keep our Bordelais identity
Yep.
while tweaking it.
Yep.
So we said, let's get the Bordeaux varieties, the white Bordeaux varieties, but from somewhere else where the genetic is a bit different. And we still haven't found anything interesting for Semillon, but for Sauvignon we found
Great.
some old selection from the Loire, very old, pre-clonal,
Huh.
old
Wow.
vines, and we got the permission to take cuttings
Yeah.
and bring them back to Grand Village. And in 2010 we started planting
That's
Le
great.
Champ Libre. So it's a Sauvignon Blanc that does not play to the rules of
Nope.
Sauvignon Blanc. So it's not a Sauvignon Blanc for me. I think it's a great white wine from clay and limestone from the north of the right bank.
Perfect description. And then finally, you have Grand Village, Blanc and Rouge. And is it fair to say that a little bit Grand Village is your testing ground? Are you doing new things there before potentially you bring them out to some of the other vineyards?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah, I think it's part of the deal.
Yeah.
Grand Village is our oldest property.
Right.
So it exists way before Lafleur.
Yep.
But it was never as famous as Lafleur. And in Grand Village, on the one hand, this is our village, meaning we make wines that we make exactly as we make Lafleur, with the same family, same team, and same methods in the vineyard, in the cellar. But it's our mission to keep our Grand Village red and white in a price point where we can share it with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Something we can't do with Lafleur.
Nope.
We can't do with Le Ponce. It's important for us because young people these days have a hard time to get access to great wines.
And you need a gateway wine. You need something to introduce
You must
them,
have.
right? That's not going to scare them away.
Yeah. So I
so
think
important.
that's our Grand Village red
Yeah,
and white.
Perfect.
But on the other hand, they are not our entry-level wines.
Right.
People use these terms. They are one of the different terroirs that we have. We have 6 wines coming from 6 different terroirs, done by the same family, same team, and in the same way.
Yep.
So Grand Village represent our clay limestone terroirs on the north, on the cooler climate of the right bank, because we are in the north of the right bank and we are higher, like in Perrières, but with more clay, while Perrières will be very intense on the limestone. And other than that, yes, Grand Village is our birthplace, so we have much more space here. We are more quiet here. We have 60 hectares in Grand Village. Only 10 of them are planted with vineyard. We have ponds and forests.
Nice.
And we grow cereal, and we have horses. We have stables in Grand Village. It's a whole ecosystem in Grand Village.
I need to visit. I haven't visited Grand Village. Next time I'm there, I'd love to visit.
It's such a great, beautiful place, much more quiet, much more secluded, and therefore we have the space and the capacity to also experiment. If we need to experiment with anything, before we will apply anything to Lafleur, it must have been, tested and proved in Grand Village. So Grand Village donates and participate in the game of Lafleur in one way, because there's many other ways, by being also the lab for Lafleur. In Lafleur, we don't have the margin, to make a mistake.
No,
and when you experiment, in many of the cases, you make mistakes.
Of course.
So we can do some experimentation.
You need to make better.
You need to make mistakes to learn. That's experimentation.
Yep.
So we do that in Grand Village, and when we see that the result is great, then we say, okay, let's slowly apply that to Lafleur and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Grand Village Red will prepare the barrels for Lafleur. So Lafleur has almost no new oak, but we buy the barrels new. We send them to Grand Village, and Grand Village Red prepares them while he ages in them. And then we send them to Lafleur and to Le Ponce. So there's so many different types of synergy between our different crews, between our different wines. In the end, it's one family with 6 wines, and they're all connected to each other.
And I love how you're part of this family, right? How you talk, and you're just part of the family. It's really a wonderful place to be. And it's I'm not surprised, but it's great. This podcast is sponsored by the Durant Corkscrew. If you enjoy mature wine as much as I do, you know how challenging older corks can be. Even with experience, they don't always cooperate. I still remember the first time I saw a Durant in use back in 2012. I was gobsmacked. It solved a problem I and every serious wine drinker has faced. It is as close to foolproof as I've ever found for opening bottles of wine with older corks, and now I keep 3 of them on hand. Here at Uncorking What's Next, we're giving a Durant away. Just share with me the story of what made you fall in love with wine. You can share it by email or Instagram. Over the summer, we'll be picking the best story to share on the podcast, and that person will win a Durant. And if you'd rather not wait, you can order the Durant directly at www.thedurant.com. When you looked at Lafleur today, what are you uncorking next? What are we going to hear about in the next couple of years?
I think the future for us, I don't think we'll make more wines. We moved from 4 to 6 crus of wines in a very short time.
Yeah.
That's huge for our family. I think just we'll try to get better and better and better, see how we can manage whatever nature is going to throw at us. And I think our biggest challenge is that we want to meet more people, see more countries.
Great.
We were always very discreet, but we want to see more people. So we want to travel a bit more. It's very difficult when you're a full-time farmer and everybody
Yes.
at Lafleur is a farmer. Even if we're doing in parallel other things, we're all farmers. And when we need everybody in the vineyard, we call everybody.
Yeah.
We can be
All
a
hands
whole
on deck.
lot of us in the
Yep,
vineyard
yep.
working. So we can't travel a lot, but we try to travel more. We try to see a few more people in Lafleur, try to allow a few more visits when we can, because we think that that's the one thing we were missing always. There's no wine without people,
Yep.
not on the producing side and not on the existing. You
Yep.
know, you have to exist, or wine exists
Yep.
if people are drinking it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And emphasize on the word drinking,
Yes.
not buying,
Yes.
drinking.
Totally. That's
We
what
want
it's all
people
about.
to drink our wines. That's what
Absolutely.
it's made for.
But I think that, okay, so that's what's uncorking next at Lafleur, and that makes total sense. I think that's the right...
I think us being more around,
Yep.
seeing
Just
the
being
people who love Lafleur, and seeing the people who might who might not know Lafleur.
Yep.
There's a lot of those people, and we wanna get to know you.
Right.
We wanna, you know.
Or they know it, but like me, didn't visit for a long time after they visited Bordeaux, right? It's a similar story.
Definitely.
Yep,
And
yep,
that's
yep.
very common.
Yep.
That's very common of people who know about Lafleur, who know the name, maybe have tasted one bottle,
Yeah.
but they don't know our stories. They
Yep.
don't know why Lafleur is such a different, weird animal in the landscape of Bordeaux.
Yep.
So I think that's always cool to share, and we want to do it
For
a
sure.
bit more.
Amrit, before we finish, I have 3 last questions for you.
Yeah.
Please share an early memory of wine that really drew you into wine.
I think an early memory would probably be, and don't hate me for this, but the first time my father actually brought a carton, not a case, a carton of wine at home that a friend from work recommended, and it was a 12-bottle carton of Concha y Toro from Chile,
Right?
which is a very well-made, very mass-produced, well-made wine.
Yes.
And that was the first time I tasted wine. I not tasted, I drank wine.
Right.
Nobody was talking about tasting in our family. We
No.
sat around the table and we drank wine, and I said, this is quite delicious.
Yeah.
My eyes were open.
Great.
It was not with a great Bordeaux or Burgundy or Riesling or Barolo or whatever you want. It was with a very friendly price, very cheap, let's be honest, really well-made, mass-produced wine from Chile. So I think that opened my eyes to wine.
And at Lafleur, was there a breakout moment where you felt, yes, I'm doing something really impactful here?
April 2017. Yeah,
That's pretty precise. Good.
27,
What day?
28.
27 to 28th of April?
27
Okay.
to 28 of April 2017, for those who have a good memory, because it's not that long ago. The first major frost, spring frost in Bordeaux.
Yeah, that's right.
In our more recent era, let's say between 91 and 2017, there weren't any major ones. There were sporadic and more localized one. 2017 finds, Bordeaux finds itself unready.
Yeah.
Not ready.
Yep.
Because the Guinaudot family are very involved farmers. That they see the actual situation on the daily basis in the vineyard, but they also think ahead. Clearly, that memory that Jacques still has of 91, where we did not make Lafleur because of the frost, always represented a burden on him.
Yeah.
And in 2014, we already said we were starting to see the curves of climate. We say it's going to get more extreme. One of the first thing we might be exposed to are spring frosts
Right.
in higher frequency.
Yeah.
And we decided to get ready, and we bought our smudge pots,
Yep.
we call them candles, big
Yeah.
candles basically.
Yep.
In 2014, and we thought in 2014 and 15 and 16 that why the hell do we buy a
Yeah.
container of this?
Yep.
And in 2017 we felt okay, thank
Yep.
God we bought those, and we deployed from something that we had zero experience with our team, which are amazing. Everybody was sleeping with their cell phones under the pillows. The Guinodos and myself were touring the vineyard of Lafleur from pretty much 11 p.m. And of course, when we felt that suddenly the temperatures are dropping very fast, we called up everybody.
Yep.
And it was quite a night, quite an operation. And we had to replicate that the next night again. And we learned a lot. And I think it felt like, doing something that was not that obvious. It was not part of our daily routine or even yearly routine.
Yep.
And at the same time, something that saved.
Yeah. Save the vintage.
The year.
Yeah.
Saved the vintage for us. And Lafleur 17 for us is one of the greatest, not just as a memory, as a quality of Lafleur.
Yeah.
This is one of the greatest Lafleur we ever produced.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And I know that it's not the common word in Bordeaux about the 2017, but 17, the year was great.
Yeah.
Except of 2 nights.
Yeah.
If you manage to take those 2 nights
and
out of the equation,
yep.
because you manage them, the wines are great. They're phenomenal. And it's one of the most balanced seasons we ever had. And the wines are great.
Yep.
So I highly recommend them. And it's a moment I said, okay, we're doing something here.
Right.
We're doing, now we showed that we are,
Yeah.
Well, we know what we're doing, and we gave it our best.
That's amazing. What a great story. Thank you for sharing. Last question.
Of course.
Please share one piece of advice for someone who feels like they don't belong in wine.
Open a great bottle and share it with people you love, and I think you'll feel the connection coming back.
I love it.
Immediately.
I love it.
Immediately.
Yep. Lafleur or any great bottle, right? It's
any great bottle. Something that will make you tick again here. Great wine, the difference between just a good wine to a great wine is all about emotion.
Yeah.
I can't quantify any difference, but I can feel the difference.
Yeah.
And it must give you, make your heart tick. So I think open a great bottle and share it with people.
Exactly.
Don't drink it alone.
No, that's
doesn't
just going to say, open a great bottle
wine
at
doesn't
dinner
work alone.
with friends and family.
Yes.
That's what wine is all about. That's what makes wine so special.
And I would say even more, with friends that you like or family, eating some fun soul food. Don't make a thing out of it.
Don't overthink
Don't do it in a 3-star, three Michelin star. Don't overdo it. Lafleur and pizza.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Do it. I do it.
I say that all the time. People have a special bottle of wine. Go make a hamburger and go open it with a hamburger or a pizza. It doesn't matter. Right?
Soul food that you love that will not make you break your head so you can enjoy the wine.
Exactly. Yeah? Brilliant.
That's it.
Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you next time I'm in Bordeaux.
Yes, let's do that soon and have some pizza with it when we
perfect.
do it.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
It was great. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Well, you've made it to the end of the episode. Thank you for listening all the way through. I want to encourage your feedback. Please email me or send me a message on LinkedIn or Instagram. Please share with me if you like the show, what I can do better, and any guests or subjects that you think would be interesting. I'm really curious. I, Jess Zachariah, am the producer of this podcast. I'm still connected with Zacky's Auctions as a consultant and auctioneer in helping to bring in consignments, but this podcast is not in any way connected with Zacky's. I also want to thank everyone who's made this podcast possible. I want to thank my daughter, Josephine Zachariah, my son and his wife, Tom and Alyssa Zachariah. All 3 are in the wine business, and I'm grateful for their thoughts and insights. My good friend Christian Kuipers for the artwork, my daughter by choice, Hannah Tobias, for the music, Soraya Perry, editor, Amelia Langus, marketing, and my amazing wife, Frederique, for her continued and constant support. Thank you.